Oh, good morning, London, as we look outside the window. This morning we're heading over to the Borough Markets, which is the oldest market in London. It's been going for over a millennium, although it's only been on its current site since 1851. It was adjacent to that. And in 1851, maybe 1853, it's been a while since I read it, a group of locals raised enough funds to purchase the land, and now it's run by a volunteer committee. And right here is St Catherine's Docks. Now, if you travel through there and head out behind the building we're in, there's a harbour and there's quite a few boats held in there. St Catherine's Docks was named after that because there used to be a hospital on that site called St Catherine, which was built there in the 1200s, so 13th century. But that's not the oldest hospital in London. The oldest hospital in London is St Bartholomew's, which was built in 1123 under Henry I, and it's over near the Old Bailey, close to St Paul's Cathedral. We'll go past. He's struggling to get elevation, isn't he?
Yeah.
I've got to try and have a crack. Yeah, we really need to throw our rubbish in the bin, don't we? This poor pigeon has a disposable mask stuck to his foot and we can't help him. He keeps flying away. The train heading over the Borough Market. Well, the Borough Markets were good. We've got some good food platters for Christmas lunch tomorrow. And as we leave, we're walking across the Thames and we're walking across the London Bridge. And everybody seems to think that London Bridge, well, not everybody, but a lot of people seem to think that London Bridge is the big, glorious bridge in front of the Tower of London, which is off in the background there. That is not London Bridge, that's Tower Bridge. This is London Bridge, and it's not that old. It's only 50 years old. It was finished in 1973. But before that, for 600 years, there was a medieval bridge here. I'll flash a photo of it now. Oh. Thank you, Photoshop. And this one here, well, and then preceding the 600-year-old, the one that was built in the 13th century, lasting until the 19th century. Before that was a timber bridge. But the interesting thing about that was built by the Romans. But the interesting thing about the London Bridge that stood here for 600 years is that it had 400 shops on it. It was like a market. So as we walk across the London Bridge, quite interestingly, we're both in that mudlarking page, where you go mudlarking on the Thames looking for old Roman remains. And here are a couple of people doing it as we speak.
People find stuff all the time.
Oh, pipes, coins, all sorts. So after leaving the Borough Market and walking across London Bridge, have a look on your right hand side down Monument Street. You'll see this massive monument, and this is where the Great Fire of London started in 1666. Now, I've watched programs on this and I've read this and I've tried to look up the exact location that the fire started, and to my understanding it was about 60 feet away from this monument in this direction. So I think it started just down there, somewhere around here. That's where the bakery was, and that's where the fire started. And interesting fact about the Great Fire of London is it helped wipe out the plague because it killed all those rats and fleas that were spreading it. And it only killed a handful of people officially. It may have killed a lot more because we're unsure of how many homeless people were living in London who weren't accounted for. Well, I got vindicated on that one. I was pointing to this spot. I didn't realise that they'd done this. This is only a couple of years old. And this is where it started. Oh, and this, look at that. Say that again.
Well, the mayor said that until the king came down. The king said, let's stop the fire.
Well, you remember when we were talking about the Canterbury Tales written by Geoffrey Chaucer, about the pilgrimage of those people who would leave Southwark which is the area we're in now, would leave Southwark and head to Canterbury Cathedral on their pilgrimage to the shrine of St Thomas Becket.
Yep.
Well, they would leave a hotel called the Tabard Inn.
Yep.
And we're unsure as to whether the Tabard Inn burnt down or whether it was pulled down in order to create a fire break. But because we don't want to be crass and uncouth on this video, we're going to leave it up to you to Google this question. What did the mayor say about the Great Fire of London in 1666? We're not going into the Tower of London today because it's not open. Won't be open for a couple more days, but good opportunity to have a look at this spot here, Traitors Gate. Now, this is where they used to have some spikes, and they used to hang anyone who was a traitor. They put their head, they dip their head in tar and put it on a pike. Now, I've been a contributor to Wikipedia, so I wish I could again, and maybe I will, because there's a couple of false comments stating that William Wallace's head was stuck on a pike at the Tower of London. This isn't true. William Wallace had his head stuck on a pike on that bridge, but the bridge looked very different at the time. It was the old timber Roman bridge, the original London Bridge. Nando's for lunch, and then a walk down towards Trafalgar Square through the narrowest lane in all of London. I'm going to have to suck my guts in when I get down here. It is officially London's narrowest lane. Yeah. Trafalgar Square. There's Lord Admiral Horatio Nelson, keeping guard and 4 Barbary lines protecting him. I like Trafalgar Square. It's always a buzz of activity. Remember Mary Queen of Scots? We've done a lot of history on her, and her grandson Charles I. Well, Charles I in 1649, as we know, January 30th, 1649, he was executed. They performed regicide under Oliver Cromwell, who led the Parliament, because King Charles I, he kept feuding with Parliament. He was too bossy for his own good. And the building that they executed him in is the only part of Whitehall Palace that remains, which is that building there.
This piece here?
Yep, that piece right there. That's the only remaining part. The rest of it had been destroyed through fires and
Bombings? Blitz, maybe?
Bombings, yeah, in the Blitz, yeah.
Okay.
He'd be all of 20 years old. So after 7 years of feuding with Parliament, Oliver Cromwell's parliamentarians marched King Charles I into this hall in 1649 on the 30th of January, and they took him out the back and beheaded him. So there you go, Ma. You can't get to the door, but there's number 10 Downing Street. There's the door just down there. Can't even see it properly. Oh. Should go in and see if Maggie's home. Look at all great statues here, and Mahatma, good old Mahatma. He spent a lot of time in London.
Yes.
In fact, he was a law student in London, and he arrived, I remember it well, 1888, because it was the year that the Ripper was running around. And he arrived here in 1888. Yeah, they've got some doozies here. They've even got Morgan Freeman. Well, no buff of criminal history, or any person interested in criminal history can come to London without doing the Jack the Ripper tour. And if you're going to, you've got to stop here at the 10 Bells Hotel in Whitechapel, because this is where all 5 of the victims were patrons. So naturally, we may never know who he was, but the Ripper had frequented this venue and prayed at that church, which is pretty impressive.
Dr. Phillips, who everybody remembers, right?
Yes.
Dr. Phillips. They did have them all piled up at the back here for a while. I thought they were going to do something with them. They've been here for 200 years. Apparently not. Should we have a mile down here in Rackham Street, up next to All Street Tube